local community. Rogers TV is proud to support local producers and share local voices, ideas, and opinions. For more information, please visit our website.
Welcome back to the 10th year of KickBack. We are so excited to be here and to have you join us once again. We are so excited for everything that we have planned for you. We just love all of the guests that have either come back, new guests, old guests. So again, this is KickBack presented by the Canadian Mental Health Association, Brant, Haldeman, Norfolk. Thank you so much to them. And we're just going to jump right in. Christine, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, we're in our fake living room here at Up Yoga and Wellness.
Yeah, I know this space well. It's where I have my weekly Soma classes. So
yeah, definitely. And so somatics. You are a somatic coach. Mm-hmm. For the people that are watching that maybe have never heard that term before, can you explain a little bit about what the concept is?
If we break the word down, soma actually means body in Greek. So it's really about being with the body. So with the sensations of the body, with your internal experiences, your taste, your smell, your touch, all of that kind of stuff. So it's really just your relationship to the world through your body.
And can you explain about how our body holds stress and trauma?
Totally. And when I talk about trauma, I like to mention that trauma doesn't happen in the event. It actually happens at the level of the nervous system. So the analogy that I like to give, or the kind of explanation, is if you think of a race car driver, they train for danger all the time, right? But you think about someone who's in the general population, if both of those people had a car accident, the person in the general population, that could have been a traumatic event. Right. But for the race car driver, it probably isn't, right? So that's where when we think about trauma or like high levels of stress, it happens at the level of the individual or their nervous system versus like just looking at the event as a whole. But it's essentially when something was too much, too soon, or too fast. And so your body gets stuck in a protective mechanism and it isn't able to return back to the flow of life. What
led you to this work then?
I went through burnout a couple years ago, so my body was really screaming at me. I know we hear often that like the body will scream if you're not listening to its whispers. So I was having digestive issues, like migraines. I was exhausted all the time. I was sleeping for like 12 hours a day. I could feel that I was so disconnected from my body. And so I remember like one of my friends got into somatic work, like that's how I found it. But the first time that I really like slowed down and was with my body, it felt like I was drunk. I felt like I was having an out-of-body experience, but that's where I realized how disconnected I had been and how much I was just living for other people and really didn't know what I wanted myself.
Right, and I just think we all live such busy lives. Right, like it's go, 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 yes. Go. The idea of somebody stopping and like taking that moment for themselves. Some people struggle with that, right?
Totally, and like I'll be honest, I didn't take that moment until it felt like my world was crumbling around me. And I remember calling my partner and being like, I don't feel anything. Like I had gotten to the point where like it was just so much constantly that I was like, I don't feel joy, I don't feel sadness, like I just feel like I've flatlined. And I was like, this is not how I want to live. So it does take a few people, and I'm one of them, where like you get to a point where you're like, I can't live like this. But I hope that the work that I'm doing allows people to catch it a little sooner than that.
Right, well, and I think that's amazing, right? And it's so great to see the individuals that hit those points of struggle and they find something that works for them. And then they're like, I need to teach others how to do this. Can you share a little bit about what maybe that, like those first steps into working with a somatic coach like yourself would be?
Yeah, for sure. I think if you're at home and you're just like kind of starting to get into the work and you're looking at like, what can I do? I would say reduce your input. So I was someone that would like watch TV while also scrolling TikTok, and I was just getting like trying to drink from a fire hose, right? Yeah. So I think like try cooking without music playing or the TV in the background. Like try to reduce some of your input. Try driving without a podcast or a music playing, and just like be with some of the things that are going on. Be with your thoughts, be with some of the sensations in your body, and really try to reduce the input. I would also say like Up Yoga has an amazing yoga schedule, so like try moving your body and just like, again, reducing the input. So go for a silent walk and just notice what's going on. Maybe you feel your heart beating, maybe you feel your legs a little bit tense, but you're starting to build that two-way communication with your body.
Right, and is that the simplest way to be able to start down this road through somatics? Is like just taking that pause and like noticing those things?
It really is. It sounds so simple, but sometimes it can feel so scary that if you've never been alone with your thoughts, or it feels really scary when you are, that feels like you're absolutely crumbling someone's sense of safety. And somatics really comes back to the body feeling safe. And so if being alone with your thoughts or reducing your input causes you to be alone in that place of danger, it can feel really scary, but it really comes back to like, it is so simple as like, I sometimes put a timer on my phone and I'm like, check in with yourself. Right? And so it's just those moments to take a step back from the busyness of our day and be like, how am I doing?
Right. So for individuals that maybe like, I think we all carry way more than we need to from past experiences. We carry that with us every single day. I like to look at it as like having a backpack just loaded full of stuff, right? And it's there, and I'd say the majority of it is stuff that we shouldn't be carrying with ourselves. So would somatics help with kind of unloading that backpack?
For sure. I think I will never bash talk therapy. I think it's an incredible resource, but it does work top down. So you're going through your mind, your cognition, your thoughts as a way to kind of change your behaviors or change your body's way of moving about life. Somatics goes bottom up. So it works through your sensations, your body's experience first, which works with your nervous system first. And I think the tough part about carrying that backpack is sometimes you don't know what's in the backpack, right? Like these things happen when you were super young and you don't have access to the event anymore. So by working through the body, you're able to access it in a different way if you don't quite remember it, or you don't have like you can work through the sensations of the event or what happened through the body versus being like, I think this is what happened. It's very individual. Again, we like to work with the sense of safety. So if someone is coming in and their sense of safety is quite strong, and we're able to kind of work with what we call pendulation. So working with like maybe going towards a bit of a stressful event, but then coming back to safety. That's something that we can do. But it does come down to working with like making sure that their sense of self-regulation is there before we start introducing like a bunch of new things or introducing like the kind of the well that is healing. So it really comes down to that sense of safety and self-regulation of being able to touch onto a stressful event, but then coming back to themselves. And I like to think of it as like tides, where you're kind of like flowing onto the beach and flowing back, versus sometimes people come to me and they're like a ping pong ball, right? They're like bing, 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 bing. And so our goal, instead of them being like this, is to find that wave again. And
now is this achieved through movement and through like talking about this, or like how does it actually work?
Yeah, so it depends on like what kind of containment the client needs. So some people like to understand why they're doing things, in which case we do talk it out a little bit more, and I'm like, like this is why I'm asking you this, like this is how your nervous system works, and they like to understand what's going on within them. Other people, it's like a silent session. And because things are happening at the level of the body, you don't necessarily need to talk about it, and sometimes talking about it or rationalizing it actually brings them out of their body and back into their brain or into their cognition. So sometimes it'll just be me asking about what are what sensations are coming up. Do those sensations mean anything to you? Is there emotion coming forward? Is there an image alongside those sensations? You know, can we just sit with that instead of trying to change it or force it to be something else? And sometimes like we can carry on an entire session where I'm guiding it through some of those questions and they're experiencing it in their body, but they don't have to tell me, because as someone working in somatics, I'm able to see how their body is responding. I'm looking at their behaviors. I'm looking at, you know, like are they getting more flush? Or how is their posture?
This program is brought to you by Rogers Xfinity, connecting you to more of what you love. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
My name is Chef D. Most days, you'll find me feeding high-profile personalities in even higher-pressure kitchens. But now I'm taking an ordinary food truck and a slice of summer to get out of my comfort zone and into parts of the community normally out of my reach. It's a gamble, but if I can use my passion for food to help out some amazing folks, it'll be worth the road trip.
Welcome to the traditional, ancestral, unceded territory of the Stalo people. The Stalo are people of the river. I'm so thankful for the courage and resiliency of our ancestors who lived on this land since time immemorial. Each of us have gifts from the Creator, and our Creator has a plan and purpose to be fulfilled in our territory. As we embrace our traditional teachings, we can lead the next generation into the fullness of what our Creator designed. Our shared history reveals a broken relationship, but as all Canadians commit to hear truth, acknowledge injustice, we can learn to walk in our traditional way, Letsamot, with a good heart and a good mind. Then all of our lives will be enriched. Kwasai.
Have you ever thought about just how much politics you speak about just in your own kitchen or in your living room? Or how many important ideas are shared or solutions to some of the world's biggest problems? Well, you're in luck, because I'm inviting some of my friends to come and speak to me about everyday politics, and I'm bringing my living room to you. So join me on Wednesday evenings from 6 until 7 for Everyday Politics with Laura May Lindo.
You're watching an interesting local show on Rogers TV and you want to know more. That's when you head to rogerstv.com. Our website provides more information about our programs, our hosts, our schedule, and about how you too can get involved with Rogers TV. Visit us online at rogerstv.com.
I am a champ.
I am a champ. I am a champ. I am a champ. I am a champ. A member of the Warham's Child Amputee Program, thanks to your donations.
Welcome back to KickBack. I am so excited to have you join us. This episode, or this interview, is presented by the Canadian Mental Health Association, Brant, Haldeman, Norfolk. So thank you to them. And I'm really excited to have my friend Claire join us in the fake living room / yoga room here at Up Yoga and Wellness. So thank you for joining.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I love that I'm here, and I love that you guys are doing this. This is amazing. So
yeah, and so we wanted to touch on grief, right? Which is something that all of us experience in one way or another through life, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But you wanted to share about how there's many forms of grief.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people generally just, they think of the death, and of course, yes, that is a very common, unfortunately, everybody goes through loss in their life. But I think there's also other types of grief as well. Even, grief with losing a job, even if it's like a sudden loss. I've had patients that I've treated that just out of nowhere that they've lost this job that they've put all these years into. And it really, really hits them very hard. And I don't think that kind of grief is really acknowledged much. But another really important one that I want to address is grief when leaving an abusive relationship. A lot of people think, when you leave an abusive relationship, it is like, oh, you must be so relieved and everything, just move on forward. But there is a level of grief with that. And that can be, a relationship whether it's like parental, or if it's a partnership, or even like a child, because there, are relationships when the child can be abusive to the parent and they have to cut that relationship off. So there is a lot of grief and guilt as well associated with that. So I think that's a very important one to address. It's not something that's really generally acknowledged, and if it's not acknowledged, it can't be helped, right? So it is important to kind of talk about those ones as well.
Definitely, and I think that there's even grief from like positive things as well, like like getting married or getting a new relationship, but you still lose that old form of who you were, right? Or having a kid, you lose that life,
new jobs,
that you had.
new careers,
right?
Moving. There is so many different forms of grief. It's not just death that causes grief. So,
right. Yeah. And so from your perspective, through traditional Chinese medicine, how does it view grief?
So grief can be looked at in a lot of different ways. Everything manifests very differently for people. In my own experience, unfortunately, I've had several deaths that I've had to go through. Some of them have been very sudden, and some of them have been, watching someone go through cancer, and it's a more drawn out, like loss and grief. And I think that they're very, very different impacts when you have the different types, right? So, actually, what really got me into mental health in the first place was when I was 23. My best friend, his name's Mark Smith, and he passed away. He committed suicide, and it really was just such a huge impact and such a huge blow in my life that I just kind of took to how can I stop other people from doing this? How can I show people that there's other ways to do this and to stay around and to, kind of get through whatever, right? So, yeah, so that and there was that sudden death, and I looked into a lot of different ways to help people. I couldn't really quite find something that I could get into that was Western, and there was a lot of great things that Western therapies and stuff can do, but it just wasn't something that clicked with me. And then somehow, at some point, I found Chinese medicine, and it was just like, yeah, that's where I want to be. That is what I want to do, and that's how I think I can help people. Chinese medicine is so individual for every person, so it can manifest, differently with
like insomnia. It could be loss of appetite, different.
Yeah, there's a lot of different manifestations, right? So like you said, loss of appetite, or even the opposite, where it's just like constant hunger, right? So insomnia, anxiety, panic attacks, even like migraines, fatigue, a lot of things that are kind of just shoved off of, or even things that are like, I'm just getting older, so I'm getting more tired, or, inflammatory responses in the body, right? So a lot of things are very much like symptoms are muted, right? But all these symptoms are just little red flags that our body is kind of waving at us going, hey, I need help here.
Right.
Like there's an imbalance here, and we need to, like in Chinese medicine, bring the body back into balance and have that homeostatic kind of harmony within the body to be able to process a lot of that stuff. So, yeah.
Right, and like you said, I think a lot of people do like not take those feelings or sensations seriously until they are much larger and in your face, right?
Yeah.
And
when we don't listen to our bodies, the symptoms and the signs get louder and louder until it's something, like I've had patients come in where they have, numbness in the limbs, and, they've had all the tests and nothing's, coming back, and they can't figure it out. So of course they get, my favorite diagnosis for people is that people have come in with is, it's all in your head. It's like, no, it's not. It's your body. But those symptoms are, because those are very scary symptoms for people, but they tend to be like down the line of, that ripple effect that people are like, okay, well, yeah, of course I've always had headaches, but whatever, who doesn't have headaches, So there's so many red flags that our body will give us until it just gets to a point of like screaming at you. And that's usually when people are paying attention, and it's like, we have to kind of backtrack of, okay, what is the root imbalance here? Like, so that's what I do in my practice is I look at all of the symptoms, and I look at the body in its entirety, right? And we treat in its entirety. We don't just treat, a symptom here, a symptom there. We look back and say, okay, well, this is connected with this and this and this, and oh, look at that, you had this big traumatic thing happen right before this symptom started, but it was just kind of a small thing, so you didn't really like, that's, but yeah, the symptoms get louder and louder the more you ignore them, so.
Well, and I think that a lot of people don't necessarily know what balance feels like in their life, right? And so, for me, you and I had worked together, and the dairy was something that I needed to remove from my diet. And I was somebody that came with the numb toes. They'd just been numb for a while. So that was me.
We need to backtrack.
Get your toes checked. But I know now, just a simple way for me to kind of show that is that you don't necessarily know how good you feel until or how you were feeling until you don't. And so for me, with now, if I get accidentally dairied, then I eat some cheese or something. If I get dairied, I feel like I have a hangover the next day. And then now to reflect back and feel like I feel like that all the time, every time I had cheese. And that was my normal. Right?
So, because who doesn't want cheese?
Because who doesn't want cheese? But that much simpler approach to some of the grief and those different things.
It's very true.
But you don't know until you start actually being self-reflective on how you're feeling and what you're experiencing.
Well, and I think because we have such busy lives and we aren't really taught in our culture to take time for ourselves and to have self-care, we just end up in this go state, and our body kind of gets stuck in fight or flight, which is, I hear a lot from people that are like, oh, I thrive in chaos. Like, no, you don't. You know how to survive in chaos.
It's survival mode.
It's just that you don't know how to stop, and you don't know how to be in the quiet. And that's where a lot of things, what I love about working at Up Yoga is that there's so many different things that we can kind of incorporate into well-being.
My name is Aaron from Monster Heat on YouTube, and if you love extreme challenges like I do, you'll get to witness some of this. See, over here at Monster Heat, we do it all, and you can watch it all on Rogers TV.
My name is Matthew Rutledge. I'm a 60 scoop survivor, born in Red Lake. Was adopted from there to Toronto at the age of 4. A lot of our brothers and sisters, family members got separated from each other. That was the government's goal, to break that connection from brothers and sisters. Basically taking the Indian out of the child. Right now, they're still trying to find themselves. Originally, my birth name is Harvey Halverson. In my high school days, teens, I was trying to fit into society. I knew I was First Nations, but I didn't know who I was inside. I think later in life, I started that journey. I am proud, Anishinaabe man, who I am now. I love life, who I am.
The Quintessence Coalition brings you immersive experiences and conscious collaborations from artists across the country. Don't miss the sights, sounds, and spirits of the Quintessence Coalition. Saturdays at 8:30 p.m.
Smudging is a very important part in our life as we're all learning to walk the good way. When we smudge, we use the sacred medicine. The white sage, the sweetgrass, the tobacco, and the cedar. It cleanses negative energy and replaces it by a positive energy. When I smudge, I cleanse my end and my eagle feather and start cleansing my breath to have better words. I will smudge my eyes so I could see the better things offered to me. I will smudge my ears to hear the good thing that people have to say. I will smudge my hair to have good thinking from my head. I will bring the smudge to my feet so I could walk in respect with our Mother, the Earth. Smudging is the way we give our prayers to connect our spirit to the Creator. We express gratitude for the gift of life, the learning, and growth.
Think it's okay to drive high? Think again. Drug-impaired driving is as illegal as drunk driving, and in Ontario, the penalties are the same. If police suspect you're driving under the influence of drugs of any kind, or a combination of drugs and alcohol, and you fail a roadside test, your license will be suspended immediately for up to 30 days. You'll pay a penalty of $198. And you can be charged with a criminal offense of impaired driving, the same as alcohol. Driving high is never okay.
Welcome back to KickBack. I am now joined by Nikki Straza. Thank you so much for joining us today, Nikki.
Thank you for having me.
Sorry.
So glad to be here.
Yeah, and I think you've been here numerous years now, and I just love having you back, and I love seeing the shifts and the changes and what you're sharing with our audience. And this year we're talking about the importance of workplace culture and how that can affect people's mental health.
Yeah. there's a lot of research and there's a lot of statistics out now to support that workplace stress and workplace dynamics are one of the biggest causes of stress and aggravators of mental illness in individuals.
Right.
And when we spend 8 to 10 to 12 hours a day in a certain dynamic, it is going to affect us,
right.
No matter who we are. I mean, even a good work environment, it's draining, it's tiring, there's, good days and bad days. And so if we truly care about people, we have to care about culture, because our workplace culture is either contributing to their well-being or it's detracting from their well-being. And there's no real middle ground on that. Right. And, I always joke that the litmus test for how your culture is how your employees feel on Sunday night.
Right. Going into work for Monday morning, and do they have that feeling of, I don't want to go tomorrow, or that dread, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, there's lots of variables and there's lots of factor. But as our younger generations are really caring about their well-being and their emotional and mental well-being, workplaces that have a dysfunctional culture or a toxic culture are standing to lose younger generations, simply because younger generations, and in all fairness, every generation wants a place and a workplace where they can thrive and they can be cared for. And workplace culture is becoming a separator from those great workplaces and those not so great workplaces.
Right. And what are some of the things that people, maybe owners of a business or managers, people in roles of seniority, what can they look for in their workforce or their employees to tell whether they have a good workplace or a bad workplace culture?
Well, that's a loaded question, but there's a lot of things. Is there warmth and connection? Is there kindness? Are people isolated in their workspaces? Is there cross conversation? What does that conversation look like? Is it a lot of correction, or is there actual connection? Are employees and staff members engaged, connected, caring about the work? Is there a lot of absenteeism? Do you get a lot of people quitting? People not showing up for work, people showing up for work and not being present. They're maybe on their phone, they're distracted, they're doing the bare minimum. They're calling in sick often. Some of these things are indicators that maybe this isn't a great place to be. And it's not a guarantee, because there's a lot of different stress factors, but it's certainly worthy of a line of inquiry and compassionate investigation to see what's actually happening for that individual or those individuals.
Right. And for somebody that is the employee on the other side of it, and maybe they are experiencing the different things that you've shared, and maybe it's that Sunday night dread of going into work the next day, what are things that they can put in place to help themselves kind of immediately?
Yeah, well, and that's the important question, because we actually have control over our own experience, whereas we may not have control over the work environment we're going into. So are we attending to our own self-care? Are we looking after our own needs? Are we advocating and asking for support and what we need in the workplace? And if we can't get it from work, is there somewhere else we can get it so that we can show up and do what we need to do to pay the bills? And so often, I think, mind management and mood management, we often feel victimized by our thoughts and our emotions. But if we're flourishing, we can be observers or witnesses to those experiences, and we can recognize that though we are experiencing them, we can influence their impact on us. Noticing the story we're telling ourselves, having a therapist to talk to, making sure we're pouring in the nutrients, getting the exercise and movement, getting the rest, taking the steps we actually need to take care of ourselves. And I'm a big believer that connection is one of the biggest boosters of resilience. ever. So whether it's at work, having those one or two people that you can really connect to that are a lifeline in that workspace, or whether it's friends and community and family at home, when we feel connected and belonging, we are empowered and much more resilient than when we're alone. And unfortunately, mental illness causes us to withdraw and causes us to pull away.
Go the opposite direction.
So we want to lean in and run towards connection, and don't believe all the thoughts and the lies that say that we're alone and that we're the only one going through this, because we're not.
Right, and for like a workplace, pizza parties aren't necessarily cutting it anymore for building those connection pieces, right?
Yeah. There's a lot of shallow approaches sometimes to workplace well-being, but the truth of the matter is having leaders who can own their own responsibility in being self-aware, creating psychological safety, nurturing healthy conflict, healthy conversation within the workplace, and creating a place where purpose and meaning rule. When an employee walks into that room and they know that they have an important role to play in the outcome of the product that they're making or the service that they're delivering, that changes it, because you don't feel used. And I think a lot of workplace cultures use people to get a product or a service out the door. But I think if we were to reframe that and use the product going out the door to build people and to put people before task, we would see many more products going out the door.
Right.
There's so much research that shows now that profitability is directly correlated with the well-being of our staff team. So not only are we supporting well-being and mental health, but we're supporting profitability and income and financial stability for families as well. There are so many wins to healthy workplace culture, because so often when you talk about culture, nobody really knows what that is, and nobody knows how to fix it or change it. But when you can start to recognize dynamics, which age dynamics, they're kind of obvious, right? When you can start to recognize that, then you can start to see the more subtle dynamics. And if we can practice on our curiosity and our empathy in an age context, in an age diversity, we have more muscle memory when it comes to those more tender diversities that can do real harm. Most of us, if we're mocked about our age, we all got a thick skin and we can kind of roll with it. That's the place, that's the training wheels for our diversity skills.
Hi, I'm Mike Farwell, and I'd like to invite you into this studio every weekday from 9 until 1 for a show that I think you're going to like. It's called The Mike Farwell Show, and it deals with the issues of the day. Local, provincial, national, even international. You'll hear from the newsmakers, and you'll get the chance to make news yourself when you call in and share your opinion. If you want to know what's going on in your community, The Mike Farwell Show is the place to find out.
What's Up Stratford is a monthly look at what's happening in and around Stratford. Host Peter Morange talks to a variety of guests, from politicians to artists. What's Up Stratford, Sundays at 3:30 p.m.
I'm sure right now a lot of you feel like you aren't able to be who you truly are.
What's most important, more important than everybody else knowing who you are, is that you know who you are.
As a young person, time moves slower for you. And just know that things will get better.
It Gets Better Canada is a registered Canadian charity with a focus on uplifting our queer youth through the power of digital storytelling.
As a Two-Spirit person, I use they, them pronouns, but that's not the case for every Two-Spirit person.
There are so many voices out there that we didn't have 10 years ago, 20 years ago.
No matter what your mind tells you, you really are perfect the way you are, so stop beating yourself up so much.
I'm gonna be a boy in a dress, because why not?
Your identity is explosive.
We all have our unique journeys, but one thing that connects us all is the desire to be happy, the desire to celebrate being our authentic selves.
public transit, garbage pickup, parks and recreation programs, snow removal on your street. How can you stay informed about these and other important local services? Tune to City Council coverage on Rogers TV. See your community leaders at work on Rogers TV City Council coverage.
Oh, folks, not tonight when Giovanni Petiti has killer monologues. Great local guests who have too much talent for national late night, and this show's got high energy. Bills. It's the show TV critics are saying is just like Late Night with Jimmy Fallon, if you ordered it on Temu. So join me Sundays at 9 p.m. on Rogers TV. Hey, I've seen your social calendar. What else do you got to do, huh? Nice.
For 25 years, you've been helping to make our roads safer by doing the right thing. You've been the designated driver, you've stayed over, called home, you've called a cab or a friend, and planned ahead. Let's keep doing the right thing. Support sober driving by getting yourself and your friends home safely.
Do the right thing.
Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive. Drive sober.
Welcome back to KickBack. My name is Ben. We are presented by CMHA, Brant, Haldeman, Norfolk, and today we are at Lost Bandit Bike Co. And now I'm joined by my good friend Mark. Mark, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
You've been with us before on KickBack.
Yes.
Previous years, you've helped host before. I just really appreciate you taking the time to come and share your expertise.
Yeah, I appreciate this initiative. I think every year we hear really good feedback from multiple communities who get to watch this, and it helps people. So I think that's the most important thing you can do.
Right. So in your role as a professor, working with students that are working to become therapists or social workers in that field, what are you? That's what we're focusing on today. Is like, what are you seeing from them as maybe their why for taking that leap? And
yeah, well, it's been really interesting. I think, we just talked about the need, right? And I think that a lot of the folks who enter into the mental health fields to become students and eventually practitioners, whether it's social work, social service work, concurrent disorders, et cetera, yes, there are people who have been touched by, mental health, whether it's themselves or people they love, but I'm actually seeing that becoming less of a reason. In the past, it was almost like we'd have to give this warning of, hey, don't be diagnosing yourself, and please, don't use this to heal thyself sort of mentality. And it's actually been a lot less of that. It's been more, I think mental health and addiction issues specifically have really entered the mainstream, and there's a unfortunate and a fortunate part about that. And I think because of that, people see it as just a viable way to help and a viable way to do something in a professional career that is interesting and important.
Right. Well, it's incredibly important, right? We're just seeing more and more people that are in need and searching for that work. So that's just really interesting to hear that that's changed, because what we always see with the guests that come onto the show is they've experienced something in their own life, and that's the reason they're here, because they don't want others to be able to struggle that same way, right? And
that's important. But the other piece of that is that if you're so focused on sort of like what you've had happen with you, and I have lived experience, and we all have lived experience. I think two things have happened. One, that sort of people have come to understand that mental health is a lot more widespread. So I think most people go, oh, I've had some mental health issue or struggle, but it's not the defining characteristic of their life in a way that when it was so much more stigmatized, it really is, right? Like if you have a diagnosis of some kind and that was a big deal and it was hard to, and it's like 1993 and you feel less than and othered and all that other stuff, I think people feel part of a bigger community, and that most people in communities have some affectedness from mental health. But you do have to be careful not to put onto your clients your own experiences all the time. So, if I had a client when I was working at the Granville Community Health Center who also grew up in Eagle Place, also grew up on 9th Ave, also had some of the same issues around the socioeconomics, also had some of the same mental health issues, their experience is still far different than mine, because maybe their parenting is different, maybe their options are different, maybe their education is different, maybe they're just things have changed in 20 years and what they're experiencing in terms of stigma and being able to talk is different. So we have to be really, really careful that, yes, it's great that it motivates us, but we also have to kind of drop it a little bit and make sure that we're allowing people to share what they're experiencing as their experience, right? Even if it's very similar at times, there's still always going to be differences.
When is that like a specific course, or is that something that's just weaved through the programs?
For me, it's weaved through the programs. I mean, so I coordinate at Mohawk College now the Concurrent Disorders program, and it's a wonderful program. And concurrent disorders means mental health and addictions and how they interact with each other. And there's a lot of interaction that can happen. But it's so unique, right? What mental health issues does one person have versus another? What addiction issues? What substances? What are the circumstances? What is the motivation behind the use of that substance initially? Getting right into things like genetics, and we talked off camera about pharmacology and also people's genetic predispositions and factors. The term I like to use is multifactorial, and there's so many different factors as to why one person maybe develops addiction more severe or less severe than another, or at all, or to one item or another. I mean, I remember getting wisdom teeth taken out, and the meds they gave me, I thought, how could somebody get addicted to this? Because my biological experience of that was not great. Right, it wasn't helpful, and give me the Tylenol 3s because what you gave me, I no thank you. But for another person, that could trigger a lifelong addiction.
Right.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And another piece about what the therapists and social workers deal with, and anybody in that field, is like the emotional load of being able to carry that. And I know, like, doing these interviews, especially early on when we did this in like a 12-hour live marathon, I think I did 10 hours of the hosting, and I was hearing things for the first time that I had never heard before, and that emotional load is very heavy. And I'm just curious as to how the students coming through, how they how they handle that, like how are they shown to carry and navigate.
So something I think the professions have gotten better at as a whole, and including when we talk to students, is better debrief, right? So when you were doing that 10 hours out of 12 and hearing these very emotional stories and very heart-wrenching stories, what you were developing is something called vicarious trauma, right? So even though you're not experiencing the trauma firsthand, over time, 10 hours, and this is why we try not to have 10 clients in one day, because we'll experience such a vicarious trauma from these stories, that it becomes really, really important to debrief. And a lot of the agencies have gotten better at it. A lot of the literature and science out there about how to debrief has gotten better. But I give a lot of credit to, say, paramedics. So I was chair of the paramedics for years. And the debriefing that's happening all over Canada with paramedics themselves stepping up for each other. We're seeing the same thing in the correctional industries, but we are starting to see it in the social service agencies as well. So when we have students, so say, for example, in concurrent disorders or social services at Mohawk, they have a seminar that is, they have placement where they're out with clients and they're doing the work, and then once a week they're coming into class and debriefing with each other, and then with a professional, one of the profs who's guiding some of that discussion. And the students so look forward to being able to have that guided debrief because they need it. And I also try to say, this is a safe place to talk about the stuff that frustrated you, and to say your opinion as it is, because it might change over time, right? And sometimes it is frustrating, right? We have to be really good at that in this work. It is the connection is the shield, right?
Right, and I think that that's a great point too for people that are watching at home, just whether, like, even if you're not in that professional field, like sharing and finding somebody that you can debrief with is just incredibly important to kind of unload the day and find that safe person.
Yeah, to figure out that shift. One of the things I realized, I've worked at a couple places at the community where I was the only mental health practitioner, dedicated mental health practitioner. Everybody dabbles, right? And until we hired somebody else, who you've also had on your show, Stephanie Dinsmore, back in the day, we worked together. It was great because I could debrief. But before that would happen, I would have to find other individual mental health folks from other agencies, and we would get together at Laurier and just chat once a month, because we needed to have that debrief and that connection. Again, connection is a shield. Connection is what keeps us from hurting ourselves. It's what keeps us from burnout, and it's what normalizes some of the things, so we don't feel like we're unable to sort of mount this, right? It's not just the practical tips piece, it's getting some of that emotion out, but it has to be done in a practical way. And the educational institutions are really building that into curriculum, and the agencies are really following up.
Right, and I think that that's incredibly encouraging that that's the case, because in our first responders and mental health service providers as well, like, they're dealing with a lot. Huge. And they're dealing with a lot of things that the average person in public have no clue right, about what's going on in the world. So I think that that's very encouraging.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we're really having to reach out about is when we are having that piece with the public. The public, they see a very small sliver of what is going on. So they see often the worst sliver, right? They see their car broken into, they see drug use on the street, they see the guy at the Tim Hortons having a freak out. But what we end up seeing behind that, whether it's social service providers or first responders, more broadly, is a lot of the systemic things that are happening. Well, that person's using on the street because they're unhoused, or because there is no safe consumption site in that community, or there isn't one anymore, right? So a lot of these things that are, we really have to do, hopefully, a good job of advocating for things that make sense. But because addiction specifically and mental health sometimes doesn't make sense to the untrained person, it's hard to go, no, this is actually a good way to tackle this. This is a good way to harm reduce. This is a good way to mitigate the death, disease, and social and financial costs. But it doesn't feel that way to people because we have a lot of different hang-ups about especially addiction, but also mental health.
Mark, for the people that are watching at home, what would you say to them as they see these individuals that are really struggling out in the open, and they see the big flare-ups and the worst of the worst, and that sliver of that? What would you tell to people that are seeing that and not sure what they can do or how to interact with that situation?
Yeah, I think it's really tough because so many of the things we see are a flashpoint in a moment in a public space that is sometimes decades or years or weeks in the making.
After a night out with your friends, not having a plan for a safe ride home can leave you in a bad spot. You could end up riding in a police car, an ambulance, or a hearse. These unplanned modes of transportation can be a costly choice and do not take you home. Your plan could include a designated driver, a taxi, or public transit. Drink responsibly, choose your ride, and have a plan for a safe ride home.
Visit arrivealive.org to find out more.
Long way from Nashville, and mama, I tell you that. Performed from Montreal to Boston to Los Angeles. But Toronto, that's my chosen home. Sure, when I'm walking down Yonge Street, I see some funny people who have the nerve to point the finger at me. And grin and smile and whisper. My song was #2 on local radio. Sold 10,000 in Toronto alone. Turned down Ed Sullivan because they asked me to remove my makeup. Wouldn't do American Bandstand because of their segregation policies. I was just being me. Never tried to explain myself to anyone. And besides, none of that to worry, Jackie, because I know I look good. Got a new way of loving, baby. Thought I want to teach it to you.
Jackie Shane was a pioneer transgender soul singer, a central figure in the Toronto R&B scene. She helped shape what we know as the Toronto sound.
Rogers TV Community News looks at what impacts you in and around Waterloo Region and beyond. It focuses on stories from municipal and provincial issues. Wednesdays at 5 p.m. on Rogers TV.
We were born in Canada. We spoke English. On the streets, we weren't welcome. But on the field, we were the Asahi. Vancouver's champions. Everyone cheered for us. Our people had a voice. Then Canada declared war on Japan. They took us from our homes, called us enemies, forced us into camps. But we brought the game with us. Baseball helped get us through the internment.
The Vancouver Asahi were among the 22,000 Japanese Canadians interned during the Second World War. The team never played another game.
Aging Well brings you conversations with experts to help empower your golden years with enthusiasm and optimism. Don't miss Aging Well with Angela and Alice Liu, Mondays at 7 p.m.
Welcome back to KickBack. We are proudly presented by CMHA, Brant Haldeman, Norfolk, and I'm now joined by Mayor Kevin Davis of the City of Brantford. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you very much, Ben, for inviting me. It's a great subject matter, and it's an important conversation that we should have as often as possible.
Right, and now you had joined us on KickBack before you had become mayor, I believe. And so I'm really interested to talk to you about how your mental health has changed over that period of time, and just there's a lot to unpack. So I guess just what has been, I guess, the biggest surprise for you with your mental health in that time of how to protect yourself, I guess?
Yeah, how challenging it is to protect yourself when you have a position where you're constantly in the public, but that's something that I was somewhat used to in my previous career as a lawyer, but it's really the fact that your schedule is so irregular. Like it's hard to have a very regular, predictable daily living schedule, and also just the amount of time that you have to spend not only going to various events, but actually also you're constantly in this type of position. You're constantly thinking about what it is you need to do, what your next objective is, some initiative you're working on, strategizing about it. And I find that's been the biggest challenge for me is and for my family as well. How do you turn that off? Right? So that you then, live in the moment with your family members. And I think that has been, for me, that's been the biggest challenge in this type of a position. I mean, I thought I had that ability down pat as a lawyer, but this is substantially different than that.
Yeah, and that's something that I'm constantly navigating, is that presence piece, is it's that showing up for our two boys and being there when I'm with them and not thinking about the million other things that are on the go, right? And what is it for you that kind of helps you maintain that presence?
Well, for me, it's one, having family members that are quite demanding.
That helps.
When my wife says to me, "What did I just say to you?" She's often testing me, but it's kind of doing a self-check and saying to yourself, okay, I'm here, this is a family event, or it's a social event with friends or family, and it's like a mental check and saying to myself, okay, I've got to stop thinking about whatever it is I'm thinking about and just focus on what's happening around me. Sometimes it's very challenging, though, depending on what it is you're dealing with in your professional life.
Right, and now with your position, you can't please everybody with that, not all the time. Like navigating that public eye piece, what has that been like for you in your last term, in 3 terms?
Yeah, it's pretty challenging. You begin, when I look back to when I first became mayor, you have this, it's almost like a reservoir of resilience. And when you're in a public position like this, where, and especially in this day and age, where many of the comments can be quite vicious and personal, it chips away at the resilience. And that's one of the reasons why I'm not going to do a 3rd term, because I can feel that the bulwark you have internally to protect yourself from that kind of stress, it chips away at you. That kind of criticism. And so over time, you lose that resilience. At least I found I have. Part of that may just be the fact that I'm getting older and I am less resilient. So that has probably been one of the biggest challenges in this kind of a position, because in this day and age with social media exacerbated by AI, it's really daunting in terms of dealing with the public debate that always occurs no matter what you're doing or what your decisions are.
Right, and were you prepared for that transition to happen?
Probably not, if I look back, because everybody that takes on this type of a position, you always think, because part of this is ego, right? That everybody's going to agree with what I want to do, and then you quickly realize, being more realistic, that no, that's not what happens. But what's different, because I can compare it to when I served as a counselor back in the 80s, right? And back then, obviously, every decision you're making, you were subject to public debate, public criticism. but it wasn't as vicious or as harsh and demeaning as it is now. And that's the big difference. And that really, if most politicians are being honest, that's pretty hard to deal with. You either have to develop, as I said, this kind of thick skin approach, or you just ignore it. It's hard to find that medium path.
Yeah, well, and I think that it's for anybody that puts their hand up and says, I'm going to take on a position like this. For me, it's like I have so much respect for the individuals that do put themselves out there because of that. And I guess the main big difference between your in the 80s as a councillor to now as a mayor is social media.
Oh yeah, it's social media, but getting back to some of the techniques I've used, probably very similar to the same techniques I use as a lawyer to deal with the stress of a legal practice, and that is having interests in activities, not just family and social with friends, but for example, for me, oftentimes it's something that would be physical, it would be a sport or a recreational type activity, and something that would consume me not only physically but also mentally. And I found that I need that to be able to make the shift away from the career environment to something that is I just enjoy doing and is a very absorbing and kind of breaks that cycle of thinking that you have, whether it's a legal practice or whatever it is you're doing. That can sometimes get kind of obsessive, that thinking loop.
Right.
And for me, what's kept me healthy mentally is finding ways in which to break that obsessive thinking loop.
Right.
I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, I think it makes perfect sense, right? Something that you can look forward to be able to shut off and tune the world out.
Yeah, but it has to be something that, well, say for example, I really enjoy fly fishing on the Grand River. And when you're fly fishing, it's not just a physical activity of throwing a lure into the water and then periodically reeling it in. With fly fishing, you have to watch the river. You have to be aware of the aquatic habitat and what insects are hatching at that point, what fish appear to be active in the river, what's the clarity of the river. So you're constantly looking, you have to be very aware of the environment you're operating in. You're constantly changing your technique that you're using. So that is very absorbing, right? Not only physically, but also mentally. And then what that does when you have an activity like that, if you're fortunate enough to be able to have something like that, that then creates that break, right? I call it that mental break between your daily occupation and something you're doing that gives you a lot of joy. And also, it's almost like a form of meditation in that sense, right? And I think that's probably what meditation does for people. It also creates that kind of mental break.
Right. To be able to, not I guess escape isn't the right word, that might be the extreme side of it, but just to be able to break that pattern.
Yeah, breaking the patterns, I think that's what's critical.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
Hey everyone, it's Sean Ferfaro, and I'm thrilled to tell you that This Week in Rangers Nation is back for season number 2. I'll have everything you want with your East Ave Blue. Special interviews, features, highlights, and more. Catch This Week in Rangers Nation every Friday.
The husband has legal title to the farm properties. I see no reason to entertain the wife's appeal any further.
If I may, I find there are in fact many reasons, both legal and moral.
For our neighbors, Laura. We should always do what we can. It's our responsibility.
Laura, your desire to ignore the legal precedent is preventing us from moving forward in this.
Moving forward is precisely what I believe we must do.
Laura Laskin says he was among the top of his class at Harvard Law. He's a Jew.
But he's not one of those flashy Jews.
No, we have an opportunity to make a difference in the lives of people today, men and women.